Welcome to Ideas at Work and Beyond. Today is March 29th, 2007. With us tonight, I have the former mayor of Danbury, Mr. Gene Aricrest, and also I have the candidate for the mayor of Danbury is Mrs. Elena Abrantes. And I would like to say thank you very much for coming back again. Mr. Aricrest, this is your first time on the show.
It is indeed. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much. I have to say that I am looking at Mr. Aricrest's years of service. And you have been a servant to Danbury for a long, long time. Your history, your records, your policy is still they are still affecting us today. And what we want to do is that we want to piggyback and talk about your records and then talk about Danbury as it is now or what it used to be. And then we have Mrs. Abrantes here, and we want to talk about also your records and how you serve this city very well. So for me to have the two of you here, it is a great pleasure. And this is election year, and who is better to talk about the issues that we are facing here in Danbury. Now, I would like to give you the first few minutes to say whatever you want to say to the public, and I want to tell the public that this is live, 792-4101, 792-4101. Please call in and let's participate in this great discussion that we're about to have.
Well, first of all, thank you, Ivan, for inviting me back on the show. It was a pleasure being here the last time. I did get a lot of feedback from a lot of people with regards to the show, and it was very positive, so thank you. I think it's very important that people start looking at a different view towards Danbury and bringing Danbury back to what it used to be. The kindness, the enjoyment that people used to live, the beauty of the city, and I would definitely like to see that come back and stop the overdevelopment, which is critical in our city today.
Okay. Mr. Aricrest, is there anything you would like to say?
No, again, thank you very much for the invitation to be with you. It's good to be here. I haven't done this in a while, and it's certainly great to be with Helena as well. You know, it's been an interesting tenure that I had, as you indicated, 22 years of elected service, consecutive elected service, dating back to 1979 and going through 2001. You know, in 12 of those years, the last 12 of those years, to have the honor and the privilege to serve as mayor in the city in which I was born was a great honor, and certainly a humbling experience, but one that was most rewarding, and I still cherish those memories in those days.
Okay. As we're going to talk about current issues, and then we're going to piggyback to how, during your tenure, how you would have approached these issues, and then if you actually address these issues and how you address them. Okay. Now, the first thing you mentioned is overdevelopment.
Correct.
And I want us to have a conversation about that because, as you know, the city is very small. We have buildings going up every second, and then we are being overpopulated. You got people like me coming in almost every second. So I wanted to know, how would you approach it?
Well, the zoning in certain areas does have to be changed because the growth is just excessive. You can't put in so many houses and so much of a development in an area that you don't have the ability to travel on the roads, which has actually become a danger at times because there is so much traffic and there's a lot of road rage out there. And also, due to the fact of the overdevelopment, you have a safety issue at this point where we've lost a lot of police officers, and you can't hire them all back at one time because they do have to go through certain training. You don't have a fire department that's sufficient to handle a crisis if it happened in the city the way that we're overdeveloping, and the school system cannot handle any more students. You assume that you put up a house, and in a house you'll have 1 or 2 children, plus you have 2 vehicles, 3 vehicles possibly, and it all causes a hazard within the city. Our high school is up to capacity. There's 3,000 students, over 3,000 students in Danbury High School at this point, and you cannot fit any more students in that school. And with this overdevelopment, we don't have a place to really educate our children properly because the teachers don't have the facilities to be able to teach properly.
Okay, now, how would you deal with this problem now? Because obviously it's a problem. Would you stop it? What would you do?
Well, you have to look at exactly what is going on. You can't just stop something if it's been approved. You have to review it. You'll have to see what can be done, what can be stopped, what issues have to be addressed. If someone knocks down a building, can they put another building up with condominiums up? I mean, that all has to be evaluated. It's not just something that you can just automatically stop, but you have to sit down and really evaluate it. And until I'm elected, I can't really do that.
Well, that is going to be an issue, in the campaign, because if you see it as a problem now, people will probably ask you, how are you going to deal with it? I know you have to look at it, but do you need to look at it now and then give an answer, or are you going to wait until you make an assessment of how to deal with it?
You have to look at it now. You do have to make an assessment, but sometimes the information just doesn't all come out correctly at this point when you review it. The information comes out a little bit better later on down the road when you actually have access to those people in charge of the departments,
Okay.
etc.
Okay.
But you do have to look at it. It's something that I will be attending a lot of the EIC meetings and a lot of the Planning Commission meetings and zoning meetings because I think it's very important. I was told that there's the possibility of a transfer station being proposed to go up near the sewer department. And that's a concern for me. We already have a transfer station in Danbury. Why would we want another transfer station?
Okay, Mr. Ericrest, let's talk about the overdevelopment. And I have to say this, it is on this show, Mr. Boughton said that it was your administration, it was you who actually signed these, what do you call them, contract, or signed the paperwork for all these buildings to be built now. Is it true?
Well, all the buildings that are being built now? No,
Well, no,
it's
but
absolutely
he
not
said
true.
it started, let me not say all of them, but he said it started with your administration. You signed the paperwork for us to have these condos.
Well, first, no mayor signs any paperwork that allows for any development. There is a process that is separate from the executive, chief executive officer of the city of Danbury, and that's the Planning Commission, which is comprised of people who are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the Common Council as members. They are our fellow citizens who serve as volunteers in that capacity. They comprise the Planning Commission. We have a separately elected Zoning Commission, which the people of the city of Danbury choose once every 2 years during the municipal election cycle. And that is comprised of, today, Democrats and Republicans both. And the majority has been different, certainly under my administration versus the current administration. Those decisions that relate to land use that facilitate development are made by those land use agencies, by the planning department, if there are departmental reviews, but if there's something that triggers certain reviews and requirements, then those are matters that have to go to the Zoning Commission for an example, if there's a change of zone that's necessary to be able to facilitate that particular development. Or if there's an example for a particular development that causes there to be an excess of 500 trips per day for a particular use, then that would require a hearing and approval by the Planning Commission. So no mayor signs any paperwork to allow any development within the city. There is a process. And from the top, you set the tone and you set a policy. And you work with those boards and commissions and those people because this is not a benevolent dictatorship. It's a democracy, and there are many people involved in the decision-making process. There were times during my administration that I can remember when I differed with the decisions that were being made by the Zoning Commission, and I'll give you an example where Lowe's Theaters are and the Lowe's store and Best Buy is situated today was formerly the Still River Corporate Park. That was zoned as an IL-40, a light industrial corporate office park setting. That's the kind of development that zone allowed for and facilitated, not retail. My argument was that we need to maintain a balance within the zones in the city of Danbury, a balance that facilitates the kind of growth and development that sustains individual and family living through good quality jobs. And that's not putting a great focus or even more of a focus than we already had or have into the retail side. But nonetheless, the Zoning Commission differed with me, and the majority at that time was of my party. They differed with me. They changed the zone, and they allowed for retail and commercial development to go there versus retaining that IL-40 zone, that zoning in that particular location for additional corporate development and office development, perhaps even manufacturing or research and development opportunities that could have gone on that site. And those are the kinds of projects that do provide the kinds of jobs that sustain, as I said, individual and family living at a greater rate of pay and with greater career opportunity than perhaps those on the retail side, by and large. You mentioned earlier that Danbury is a small city. Actually, we're geographically within the state of Connecticut, 44 square miles, which is one of the larger areas of any cities in the state, and we're the 7th largest city in the state of Connecticut now, have been fastest growing area. Danbury and the greater Danbury surrounding communities have been the fastest growing area in the state of Connecticut since 1990, and I think continues to this day. So it's our location because of the Interstate 84 corridor. It's our location in western Connecticut and in northern Fairfield County, where it's somewhat more affordable than in the lower Fairfield County, or as it's referred to as the Gold Coast. And because of the opportunities that are abound here, we've had amongst the lowest unemployment rate in the state of Connecticut throughout the 90s and now into the 2000s. So there's opportunity here, and there's a good quality of life. It's been a city that has been a safe place for people to live, to work, to play, to raise a family. It's been a place where economic opportunities have been abound, and so that's why people come here. They don't go to places that are depressed. They don't go to places where the opportunities don't exist. They come to a city where, in fact, they do. But it's up to those of us in city government, be it during my tenure or certainly now or in the future, to be able to set the policies and to speak out and make the decisions that are necessary to be able to guide the city and its development, to be able to shape it the way we need to shape it, to be able to address current problems and to be able to alleviate future problems that can be foreseen as a result of any potential overdevelopment. But I'll give you an example specifically to your question. The West Side, the former Union Carbide site, none of those units were proposed. We had, during my administration, had a planned urban development, or a PUD as it's referred to, proposed for that particular site, which had a mix of uses. It did have a component for housing, but it also had a plan for a business conference center, locations and sites within that particular complex for the development of additional corporate offices or R&D, even clean manufacturing. But the opportunity to be able to create that community within a community, if you will, would have provided a balance of uses and not just predominantly one use, which is housing now. That did not happen under my watch. That's happened under the current administration. So a lot of claims have been made about the past. The bottom line is that once you're in office for 5 years, I think it's time to take responsibility for what has happened under your watch, just as I took responsibility for the things that happened under my watch. I didn't blame my predecessors for things that had happened. When you become mayor, one day after your predecessor leaves, you assume the responsibilities of all of those things that you inherit. And then you deal with them accordingly, in accord with the policies and the direction that you want to take the city. And so that's the only thing I would say about that. But to suggest that all of the development that has been occurring in the city of Danbury, and the multiple family development and the housing developments that are occurring, even in some of our older residential neighborhoods, having been approved during my tenure is just not accurate.
If you are elected for mayor right now, how are you going to deal with, well, how are you going to prepare Danbury for the future? Because you see what is currently happening now, the policies that this current mayor is putting in place. Once you get in there, how are you going to deal with some of these policies? You can pick one or two of them.
Okay, well, the first thing is you really have to stop growth for a while and evaluate the city. Okay, you do have to stop the growth. Look to see what has happened, what can be done, and what are the steps that you need to take to make it more productive. I would like to work with, say, the Hart Company to provide transportation within the city. We have to do something, whether it's working with the governor and the train, Amtrak, traveling through the city, better access, better transportation so people can get a ride from a stop location and travel to their place of employment, and just remove some of the traffic on the road, because it's absolutely has to be reviewed, because it's critical at this point.
Mr. Ericris, you have to kind of like plan for the future. Did you kind of like foresee some of the congestion that we're having right now? Did you see the overdevelopment? Did you see all the immigrants like myself coming in? The infrastructure is not fit for the traffic, for the population, for the businesses. The schools needs to be somehow, dilapidating. They need to be, improved. Did you see that coming?
Sure. I mean, we knew that the city of Danbury and the greater Danbury communities, again, Danbury is the central city within our region. I mean, we are an economic subset, if you will, within the state of Connecticut, and Danbury is the hub of that. The strength of the surrounding communities lends strength to the city of Danbury, and likewise, if Danbury is a strong and good, safe place in producing a city, then that is of benefit to the surrounding communities. And we enjoy a good quality of life and some wonderful diversity within our cities, our city, our towns that surround us, the neighborhoods, and certainly what each of them have to offer people of within a different economic strata. So yes, we did, and in fact, there was between $180 to $200 million worth of capital projects that we employed with fiscal responsibility, I'll add, over the course of my 12-year tenure. Millions of dollars went into improving the schools. We did additions at Danbury High School, a new science building at Danbury High School to be able to accommodate the student growth and the student population that was there. The State Department of Education also projects what your student enrollment will be potentially 5 to 10 years out. We were pretty much on target with those projections in the city of Danbury throughout the time that I was mayor, so we knew what we needed to do and could plan accordingly and make the kinds of investments that were necessary. We made major improvements including additions, I should say, to most of our schools, if not all of our schools. I think all of our elementary schools, with the exception of 2, and with the Alternative Center for Education at Danbury High School, and certainly at our middle schools we had begun. And now there are other improvements that are occurring at our middle schools as well, which is a good thing. But the bottom line is those are the kinds of improvements that you continue to make, recognizing what your student population will be, what the demands on the school system will be, so that you can accommodate them in the best fashion possible. So yeah, I mean, we made many improvements, not only to our school facilities, but to our public buildings. We put an addition onto City Hall, reconfigured the way city departments function to better serve the public. Because of that growth. As you said, I can recall back when my uncle was mayor, Gino Arconti, from 67 to 73, the city of Danbury was 42,000 people. Today, there are estimates of 80 to 80,000 people, 85,000 people. By the way, as an aside, I think the undocumented folks that are here is an exaggerated number. I don't believe it's at the 14 to 18, 20,000 level that people suggest it is. And I'll just say one other thing regarding that, that the city of Danbury is not experiencing anything different than what any other city in the state of Connecticut is, or most cities of varying sizes throughout this country. But to put the city of Danbury in a negative light nationally, suggesting that it's such an issue that we can't address it effectively, is not a very positive thing for our future, because it's not going to attract or allow businesses that may be looking to relocate want to come to our city if they think it's a city that's in disarray or that is unmanageable. And Danbury is a very manageable place. I think that's been proven by Democratic and Republican administrations throughout its history. It's a very manageable city, but you need to attend to the details, and you need to ensure that people are going in one direction united, in order to address the challenges and the problems that you face, so that there can be the kind of debate that will determine what our course of action will be. You can't divide, you need to unite, and you need to work together with people. People who are here are here. In this nation, there's an estimated 12 million people who are here and did not come here according to the proper legal terms. And it's impossible. There's not enough money. There aren't enough human resources or law enforcement facilities or people within the legal system to be able to address the issue of collecting 12 million people and returning them to their from where they came. So we need to address that issue from a human perspective first, from a compassionate perspective secondly, and certainly from a common sense perspective as well. The city of Danbury was built on by the brains and the brawn of various immigrants of varying ethnicities throughout the course of our tenure. And we were settled first in 1685. So the city of Danbury became the strong place, became the kind of place that many other cities in the state of Connecticut and elsewhere in this country would, with conditions that they would love to have.
Now, let me ask you this. How would you handle this issue?
Okay, a few weeks ago, there was an article that was published in the New York Times.
Okay.
And it was an editorial which referred to the way that Danbury is handling this situation, Stamford is handling the situation, and New Haven is handling this situation. I think New Haven is a little bit too much freedom, and it's just not aggressive enough. Stamford, the way the mayor is handling it, that if someone is a criminal, he does not want them in their town. And they are picked up one way or another, and they are removed, and they are sent back to where they came from, because no country wants a criminal going and traveling to their area to live and then causing havoc within their community. If a person, one of the major problems is there's not too much that a person can do about illegal immigrants in this country. There's only so much that you can do. If a person has committed a crime, they can be arrested and they can be removed. If a person has not committed a crime, you can't just pick them up on the street. They haven't done anything. And I think that if someone has been here for 10 years, if they've paid taxes, if they work and their employer is deducting for them, which they should be deducting for them, then give them the opportunity, if the government wants to pay a fine as they did once before. There was a form called the 240I, and they filed through that. They had to pay a $1,000 fine in order to become legalized, and then they can become a normal part of this society and fit in. When we came to the United States, we came legally. My parents worked. Never in one day would they ever think of collecting anything from the city or the state. We worked, and we worked hard, and they worked hard, and we went through school, and we were educated. And most of these people that are coming to this country from many countries, they are living in such a poverty that they can't afford to stay in their own country, because normally they die or they starve, and they can't support their families. And it's a humanity issue, and it has to be dealt with. It's very difficult to have a lot of people here, but a lot of the people who complain sometimes are the ones that pick them up and take them and have them work in their yards, preparing their, cutting their grass and doing things like that, or cleaning their homes. So there's a little bit of irony there. But I mean, if someone has committed a crime, no, I don't want them in Danbury. I want legitimate, law-abiding citizens to live in Danbury who can contribute and who can pay taxes and help support the city.
Now, you've said a lot of things here. In a few words, how would you handle the situation? You would take some of New Haven and
No, I would take some of Stamford's recommendation, because New Haven is handling it.
What are some of the key recommendations you would take?
In Stamford, the police, basically the mayor has stated that if someone is committing a crime, they are to be arrested. They are to be handled. He doesn't want them in their city.
Okay.
If someone is not committing a crime, you're not going to stop them on the street for no reason at all. And harass them or deal with them in that manner. And so Stamford is a very productive city. I mean, it's blooming. It has a lot of business, has a lot of corporate business, a lot of offices, and it's doing very well. And you don't see the situation as you see in Danbury. Danbury, it's been brought up and put in such a vision that anyone that's talking about Danbury from other states basically would never want to come and live here, or would never come and bring a business here because it's not a recommended idea. Why would I?
So do you think that Mayor Boughton hurt Danbury by going nationally with this issue, or do you think that it helps to bring the issue in the forefront?
I think
Locally.
he went to an extreme. I think yes, it does have to be dealt with, but I think it went to an extreme. There's a different way to handle it, as other places have been handling it. And I just think it went to an extreme where he put us in a very bad light, an extremely bad light. And there are other towns that have a lot more illegal immigrants than Danbury. And they have more of a worse situation than Danbury. And no, I don't like people standing on Kennedy Avenue waiting for work. I mean, they have to...
Okay.
I just want to say, you know, you were very limited at the local level of government in terms of what you can do regarding this issue. This is really the failure of the federal government for decades not having addressed this issue effectively. And so now the issue is having to be addressed seemingly at the local level with the limited resources of the state government as well. It's just been very difficult. So there needs to be a change of policy at the federal level, and they need to effectively address it. That's what's going to determine how this gets handled all the way through the state and local levels of government. But it's a federal policy. Well, I mean, there are things you need to do. I mean, you want to ensure that the people who are here understand what the rules are here.
Hold on for a second. Let me
Sure.
see something. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Understand what the rules are here, and do, in fact, as Helena has said, exist within your community as law-abiding residents, and you certainly want to ensure that they're living in safe conditions. So the kinds of things that are being done at the local level are effective in terms of protecting people, their safety, their security, and ensuring that they have a greater understanding of what the rules are here if you're residing within the city of Danbury.
No, real quick, I know you have the answer, but recently the issue with the Hispanic Center, I actually don't know what exactly is going on. I've read the piece from the News Time. I think Elizabeth Putnam did a very good job in terms of letting us see, I guess, what is going on. But it's still kind of like, blurry. To me, it's an enigma because we don't know what happened to Maria Centello, and I think that personally it's probably a political move, but before we get into that, let's take this call, okay? Caller, you're in the air. Hello, caller? Hello? Caller, you're in the air.
Let me just say something really quick. The one thing also that has to be addressed is the fact that you have a lot of individuals who are actually taking advantage of their own people. There are people that are selling phony documents.
Right.
That are people that are bringing in people and promising them jobs and not paying them and putting them in harm's way, and that has to be addressed.
Okay.
Because what they're doing is they're promising these people that they're going to do things.
Okay, go ahead.
They're providing documents. These people are signing papers which have false information on it, and they are literally committing a federal crime at that point when they sign that document, even though they don't know what they're signing. And so these people are almost a seed that are implanting in their community, and they tell them that they're helping them, and people don't know better. They really and truly believe that these people are helping them. And the one thing that I've done many times is I've told people, you need to go to an attorney. You have to deal with someone who knows legalese and that can help you. Do not go to a lot of these places. Don't buy these documents because the documents are not valid and you're going to get into trouble for them.
Okay. Caller, you're in the air. Wow, we're having the same problem that Big T actually had on his show. I don't know why this is not working. Caller? Wow. Okay. Well, I can see what Big T was talking about last Friday. Now,
Hello?
yes, hello? Caller? Caller, go ahead and talk because we're having problems.
Hi.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, is there a delay?
Well, I don't know, but we have a phone problem, just like Big T.
Hi, Ivan. It's
Hi,
Lynn
hi.
Waller.
Yes, go ahead.
First of all, it's good to see you, Mayor Eriquez. I missed you down at City Hall.
Thank you, Lynn. Miss seeing you, too.
I'll mute myself. Maybe that's better. Anyway, I had a couple questions. One, first of all, how do you feel about all the bonding that's going on at City Hall at the moment? Two, I was curious about senior housing and that sort of thing, whether you have any plans to do any of that to help some of the seniors get out of their larger homes and open them up for younger couples and families. A lot of us live in places that, one, the taxes are going out of our site, and we could use some nice, clean living, maybe smaller condos, but something we can afford, not what's going up today. And three, what do you think about English language not appearing to be our major language anymore? Everything seems to be in Spanish everywhere you go. And I'll hang up and listen because I can't hear you otherwise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the one thing during your tenure in office, Gene, was the bonding. The only time that you would do bonding was when you retired bonds. So we would retire bonds and then process new bonds for new projects. So you really didn't impact the bond issue that deeply.
We had always planned any of our bond proposals. So we did $33 million for the schools. We did several other $1 million for school improvements throughout my tenure. We did rebuilt all of our dams at our reservoirs, improved our water treatment facility, our wastewater treatment facility. We did many, many capital improvements, as I said, I think exceeding in excess of $180 million. Driving over here, I was trying to add up the various bond projects that we had engaged over the course of 12 years, and I believe that was the total, might even be more. But what we did was we planned, whenever there was debt service retiring, we had planned then new bond proposals that would be able to be folded in at the time previously approved bond issues or the debt service from those bond issues were being retired, so that there would be, and we could honestly say to the voters that the impact of this bond proposal, if you approve it, is going to be zero impact on your tax rate or have a minimal impact on your property tax rate. That was the way we always planned
And it was very
any bond
effective.
issue. It was very effective because we did not, you know, look, it was, for the first time in 30 years, over 30 years in the city's history, or the 30 years prior to my time, the city received an upgrade in its credit rating and its financial rating by Moody's Investor Services, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch Investor Services. And so we were, our bond rating went from a AA to a AA+. What's that mean? It means that we pay less interest, we as taxpayers pay less interest out of the city budget to be able to fund those capital projects because of our sound financial and strong financial position. And so we only fortified Danbury's strong financial position. We've always had good leadership in that regard, and Danbury was always in a strong financial position. But when we were looking at doing any particular capital improvements and looking to bond and seek voter approval for those bond proposals, we were always going to be doing them on a basis where we would be phasing in any new debt that would be replacing retiring debt, so that there would be a minimal, if no, impact on the property tax rate. And look, you know, I'm proud of the work that the council did, and certainly our finance department, under the leadership of Dom Sotero, who was the former director of finance, in keeping our taxes stable. You know, when I left office in 2001, the water rates in the city of Danbury were actually less than they were when I took office in 1989.
Actually, I just came from an ad hoc meeting just now, and how they were complaining that people are paying different prices for the water. So, I mean, how can you do that? But what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, go to the news, and then when we come back, we will address these issues.
Great.
Okay? All right, we'll be right back.
I gotta change that mic real quick.